Well, this is a conversation I've been looking forward to doing for a long time. We're making it happen today. Greg Stringfellow has been part of LSU football for over 3 decades. Greg, thanks for letting us come to your office.
Absolutely, Jock. Welcome to the office.
This is like a museum in itself.
There's a lot of stuff in here.
I would say that you're kind of a gatekeeper of history here.
There's a lot of history that's come through these doors in my tenure at LSU. There is.
For people who don't know, what has been your job here for the last 3 decades or so?
Well, I started as a student manager back in the early 90s. From there, when I graduated college, the late Jeff Boss, my mentor, hired me on as his assistant leading into the 2000s. In 2003, when he passed away, I took over full-time as the head equipment manager. And then from there, we've progressed all the way up to today, where I became the director of equipment and the assistant AD over all equipment with a staff underneath me.
Awesome. LSU fans, they know their history, they take their history seriously. And really, towards the top of the list is the uniform.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. We get a lot of comments about the uniform. We try to keep the uniform as traditional as possible. That white jersey, the gold pants and gold helmet are really kind of LSU's brand. The logos on the side of the helmet, the stripe patterns, all those things are part of the LSU brand that we do not want to really venture too far away from.
Yeah. And you hear that from the fans, right? I mean,
well, we hear it. Like most coaches that have come through here want to make sure that they honor the traditions. But also the fans, the fans are important to us. And over my 30 plus years here, having the fans' input and knowing kind of the little changes that they notice is really impressive, because we'll change very little things based on a pattern of a jersey or something, and we'll get comments on it. So there's a lot of people out there that really care, and that's what we love about it.
In the 80s, LSU wore purple at home, and Jerry DiNardo, to his credit, got that changed.
Absolutely,
right?
We did. Coach DiNardo and Coach Boss, they flew to the NCAA. They went and talked to them about the rule change and kind of defining it where a home team could actually request to wear a white jersey, because that was our tradition before the UCLA rule took place, I suppose you could say, where they were wearing their powder blue or light blue jerseys home and away, and that's where it really kind of changed to where you're dark at home and light color jersey on the road. So we wanted it in Louisiana. It's hot. When we play our games, it's pretty warm. And we've determined that the white jersey is a cooler jersey to wear than a purple jersey. So that's what Coach DiNardo kind of went through the part of, and then petitioned NCAA that we could choose.
Yeah. And you do have alternative jerseys every now and then, right?
Correct. You can't do the same thing over and over and over again. Every now and then, we've tried to bring history back into play. So that's where a lot of the ideas and the colors and things like that for the uniforms have come. Even the patterns and things like that are all historical. We try not to do anything that relinquishes history. We want to make sure we're as historical as possible.
Yeah. And the purple is still worn occasionally, right?
Absolutely. Purple's worn a lot. I wouldn't say a lot. Purple's worn, what we started back when Coach DiNardo was here, and the coaches since then have kept up with, is we try to wear our purple jerseys for home non-conference games, as long as they're not the first non-conference game of the year. The first game we play in Tiger Stadium every year, no matter who we play, we'd like it to be in a white jersey. That's been our tradition for years.
Awesome. And this big operation too, in terms of like when you had to play the season opener at Washington in 2009, and that truck had to drive
cross country
2,500, 3,000 miles.
Yeah, cross country, that's correct. It's easier to do it on a home opener than it is mid-season to drive cross country. A home opener, you can prepare for it, you can separate your equipment out, you can send your equipment truck a couple of days early. I'd say the one case where that was not as convenient as possible was when Katrina hit, and we had to move our opener, Arizona State home opener, to Tempe. We made that decision on a Wednesday, basically. So we made the decision, or we didn't make the decision. The decision was made on Wednesday to move the game. Wednesday night, that truck had to leave. So we went from having really nothing packed and it being a home game to having to pack everything that night and get the truck on the road that night. And it was really, that's one that we weren't prepared to do it that way, So it was really an interesting. That whole year was very interesting, but that was one of the cooler kind of interesting stories about traveling across country with the truck.
Yeah, off the top of my head, West Virginia, 2011. That's another long hike.
Long one. Syracuse. Yeah. There's been some long hikes. Playing UCLA, playing Washington, playing Arizona State or Arizona or Syracuse. Those have been some long ones.
What does that truck kind of represent? Because as someone who has covered a lot of these road games over the years, that's really the first thing that arrives, right? That
Correct.
kind of tells the other team, hey, here
We're
we
here.
are.
We're here. Yeah, it's interesting because up until 2004, we didn't have a truck. We would do things in smaller trucks, and we would rent a bigger truck, things like that. And then in 2003, when we won the national championship, some of our transportation crew got together. And they committed to getting us a truck where when we did travel, we would look impressive when we traveled. And that's what we've tried to entail ever since then. We've tried to make sure we keep that up. And it helps the equipment staff. It helps be able to bring the amount of equipment we bring down. For the bowl game this year, there's 2 trucks that are wrapped that are going to Tampa. So that's two trucks is pretty typical for a bowl game.
Off the top of my head, you're allowed to travel more to the bowl than a typical SEC game, is that right?
Players?
Yeah,
Yeah,
players.
you can travel the whole team.
The whole team can go to the bowl
Can
game.
go to the bowl, yeah. That's up to the head coach and the department's decision. But yes, that's who's allowed to go if they're eligible to play.
So you're packing like 100 some odd
Oh,
uniforms?
well, I mean, the football equipment itself is you've got to plan for 120 or 110 to 120 people is what you got to plan. But really, for a bowl game, the difference than a regular road trip is you have to plan for the entire football building. There's a couple of hundred people that work in this building, and on road games, they don't all travel to every single game. But for a bowl game, typically, you take everybody. You take your full student staff, you take your full athletic training staff, full video staff, full recruiting staff goes, which they don't. The recruiting staff typically does not necessarily make it to all the road games. So all that people, you got to have stuff. You have to have stuff for them.
Yeah, because it was viewed as a reward.
Absolutely,
a bowl game was.
Everybody in this building works really hard year-round to try to earn that bowl game, to earn the playoffs, to earn postseason stuff, and it is a reward, and it's a great opportunity for everybody in the building to earn and to appreciate and to enjoy the success of the team that they work so hard to put on the field.
So you've worked with Jerry DiNardo, Nick Saban, Les Miles, Ed Ogeron, and now Brian Kelly.
Curly Hallman.
Curly Hallman. So
I was here when Curly Hallman was
Tell
here.
me you were a student in 91.
That's right. So as my student years started with Curly, and then went Curly, DiNardo, Nick, Les O, and then now Coach Kelly.
Well, maybe you can give me a little insight briefly on each one. Curly meant well. He did recruit some good players that Jerry won with, right? But it just never got off the ground.
I have great friends from the teams going all the way back to Curly's teams. I do. And so in the player world, having great friends with all those groups, you get to hear I really lose track of who was on what teams. I really do. It all crosses a 30-year period where you kind of lose track of who they are. But when you get those guys together and you allow them to talk, you hear the good and the bad of every single coach. And I mean, that's how everybody is. But it's kind of fun to learn some of the things about each coach, and then my own personal interactions with each one of them. There's obviously good and bad. There's always things that we can do better, and there's always things that we have a great time doing. So there's really not a specific story to tell on every single coach, because it's no one was here less than 4 years. So in those 4-year periods, you learn a lot about those people. Yeah. You do. And Curly, probably I don't have as many great stories because I was a student here. But there are some great ones that we tell from time to time. But through those times, the people, the places, the coaches they've brought in, I mean, I've continued to have friendships from even Coach Hallman's staff all the way to now.
The one humorous one with DiNardo was the purple pants, right?
Purple pants was a fun one for us, because we kept that secret for a while, and then when we went to Kentucky to play with them, it was humorous. We tried to do something different. It wasn't successful. It really wasn't a change to the uniform that lacked history. It was more of a change to the uniform that no one wanted at the time, because we were not very successful at the time.
Yeah.
When you win the game or when you're successful, any uniform change becomes a more popular uniform change. That's the key, is to make sure that you win the game if you're going to change something. That's the key.
Right. And if the squirrel would have been reversed, maybe the purple pants would have been more popular.
Purple pants might have been more popular. Correct.
Just what were your memories of when Saban came in here and his attention to detail and turning this thing around?
Turning it around is he did turn a lot of things around. Coach DiNardo turned a lot of things around. If you were here under Curly, And then Coach DiNardo came, things changed immediately. You know, the attitudes changed, the way we worked changed, the personality of the team changed. And then when Coach DiNardo left and Coach Saban came in, it became more, there was a different structure. Let's just say that. It wasn't more structured than Coach DiNardo. Coach DiNardo was very structured. It was a different structure. And that same thing, that different structure went to when Coach Miles got here. Each coach has their way of doing it. And each coach has had success doing it. I mean, if you look at our history, it's LSU history, really. You know, Coach DiNardo comes in here, we haven't been to a bowl game in several years. We end up making it to a bowl game, which was a huge thing, you know. Then from him, you know, going into Coach Saban, winning an SEC championship, that's something that hadn't been done in, 10 or more years in that transition. Then you go from Coach Saban winning a national championship to Coach Miles, and Coach Miles' first team was a national championship caliber team. I mean, it really was. If you think about it, that 2005 team was a great team, one of the probably best teams in school history, had it not been for extenuating circumstances, and not to make excuses, but that was a long season when Katrina and the hurricanes all hit. It made things different in this building. And then to go on and win a national championship and play for another one and win some SEC championships under Coach Miles, and then go to Coach O. And then Coach O was different than Coach Miles. And he had success, and we won a national championship and SEC championships. And then on to Coach Kelly, where you played in his first year for a SEC championship. So each coach that's come on through this transition period has done things differently, but really LSU has benefited from each change to make things a little bit different and to continue to make things successful.
Was there one coach more than the other that paid closer attention to the uniform or the way you guys looked? Or
I would say all of the coaches that have come in here that I've had to work with have had a lot of respect for our uniform. They understood it when they got here. They understood that there was a system. They learned the system and they appreciated it. And they were very proud of it. And they knew that that was a big thing. Each one of them, not any one of them wanted to dress up the uniform, right? They didn't want to let things change. They didn't want to take the stripes off the jerseys or go to a non-school colored uniform, things like that. Not a single coach has come in here and asked to do that. They respected the traditions of the uniform. I don't think any one of them paid more attention to it. You know, yeah, when a change would happen, or when somebody would come in, when a Nike would come in and say, "Hey, we have this great history we want to share with you guys. You know, what do you think about this uniform?" And they'd present it to us. We would vet it and say, "You know what? That means that uniform could mean a lot to our program." You know, going to the purple helmet that time was a change that was really out there. That was the one time that we did something that was really kind of non-traditional, because LSU had never worn purple helmets. So that's the one thing that we fought with internally, like, okay, how do we make this appreciation move on, and how do the fans react, and how do the coaches and how do the players react, and how do we give it enough stress to how important the history of that season would be and what we're trying to bring to the field. And that was a big deal. So, but no one ever wanted to take the uniform and really kind of scrap it and start over.
Yeah. That was off the top of my head, that's 2018 Mississippi State.
Correct.
And that was the silent season?
Silent season game, correct.
In which there was no, because of the war?
And yeah, that's right, 1918 there was a war, there was no...
World War I?
No, correct, there was no football. So, and I will tell you, you know, give Nike full credit. Nike came in here with a story for us, for LSU football, for LSU athletics, that a lot of people in the building had never heard before. There were places on campus that Nike had sent people in and done research without us knowing about things on our campus that really, there was history here that a lot of people did not know about. There was very important history, and they told it in that season, in that story, and then the oak leaf pattern, things like that. And it was very impressive on their part. And then we had to tweak it down to get it to be an LSU uniform and make it part of what we do. So it was a really interesting story.
The players you've been around, the many players, I heard that no one's wearing number 9 around here for a while, and you're the gatekeeper of that.
Well, I don't want to take that I'm the gatekeeper. Let's just say that number 9 is a very, very significant number. Coach O recognized that post-2019, and Coach Kelly has also recognized that post-2019. So it's a very significant number. It's a number that could fall into a program here, and we're approaching that kind of the opening of the gate of when that number could have something significantly done with it. There are plenty of numbers that have come through here that we recognize need to be recognized larger than they are. Number 9 is just one of them. And it's a very significant one just because in school history we don't have very many numbers that don't exist anymore. We have one.
Yeah.
We have several numbers that have retired jerseys but not a retired number per se. And that number is number 9 is very significant to us from that 2019 season and all the things that we accomplished that year. I wouldn't call myself the gatekeeper, but I have a strong opinion about it, and I express my opinion, and it's not, no one disagrees with, we're all in agreement, let's just say that. I'm not fighting anyone on this.
Right.
It's everyone together saying that this is something we need to recognize when it becomes available to recognize it. And I feel confident that it will be recognized.
Well, I'm just curious because there's the Kevin Falk debate, there's the Glenn Dorsey debate. You've had
Charles Alexander. I mean, you can go way deep with the College Football Hall of Fame people and the guys that have come through this program that are great people. And so there's no limit to who you could assign greatness to as a number. The question is, and I obviously was not here when Billy Cannon had his number retired. I don't know. I really don't recall what year that happened. I know it was post his success. But to do that, to retire an actual number, is a very difficult thing. You're very limited on the amount of numbers you have. So to retire one, it has to be very significant. And the accomplishments that Joe made that season, Billy didn't even do that when he had his number retired. You think about when he won his Heisman Trophy, it was the year after LSU won their national championship. So the two are similar. He played on the national championship team, but Joe's the only player in school history to do it all in one calendar year, or one season, I should say. That's significant in LSU history, and I feel that way. And like you said, in a historical point, Kevin Falk's one of my greatest friends, and I would fight for him every single day. The points you have to check off are where did they end up at? How many All-Americans were they? College Football Hall of Fame. Like what kind of awards have they received in that time period? And then you have to add all that up and figure out how that goes. And that's a committee that's above this office.
Yeah.
I know this office, all I can say is this is kind of what we're holding this number for.
Because of all the great players you've had just in the last 20 years alone, if you start retiring numbers,
I won't have any.
Yeah, there'll be no jerseys.
I remember going to Florida State 30 years ago to go on a tour there. Coach Boston and I stopped in Tallahassee to go on a tour, and they had 10 retired lockers, retired numbers, 10 of them. And I asked the guy that was the equipment guy, I'm like, hey, what do y'all do? He's like, we just have to double and triple people up. That's all we can do. We just don't have the amount of numbers. I mean, you're talking about you have 1 to 99 that's available for football, and you have 120 players already. The numbers don't work, so you have to double somebody up. But that's a traditional. That's not abnormal. But then it's like you get key numbers. You start. We could probably retire every number from 1 to 10. Well, that would be terrible. That would be terrible. So, and then you get to the Tommy Casanovas and Jerry Stovall's who have a plaque, their jersey retired in the stadium, and you try not to assign those numbers out, but the numbers game doesn't work to not assign them out. So
yeah,
there's a lot of work that has to be done on that to determine if it's retire a jersey or retire a number.
Yeah. Or is it just put them up in the Ring of Honor type
A lot of
thing?
Ring of Honor things. Yeah, a lot of Ring of Honors.
Yeah. That's a fascinating topic. What are some other things that have really impacted you over the years doing this job?
I mean, to see us in my early years win 2 or 3 games in a season, to seeing us win every game in a season is things you never think you would expect when you start here. Winning a national championship, winning 3 national championships, the stuff that comes on it, you never think you'll go trip to the White House. You never think that you will see some of these other things. And those things are the memories that I have that I enjoy. And it's the stories that we tell. And then, the friends that I've made. I mean, going back to my early years, Kevin Falk was one of my first players that was here when I was a student. A guy named Shedrick Wilson, who's a good friend of mine, who was a player for Curly, who came in a couple weeks ago and we hung out. We talked regularly. Booger McFarland's a great friend. Brady James. And you start going through the years and seeing all these people that are your friends, the Joe, the Clydes, recently. Having a relationship with Jaden's been fun. So those things all the way, you have 30 years of players that you enjoy seeing them, you enjoy being around them. I mean, the 2003 reunion was a couple weeks ago. Matt Malk and I, we cut up constantly, and then some of those 203 guys live here in town, get to cut up with them, see Matt Flynn on a regular basis, who is a legend here. But, there's you can go through the record books, the Nicky Savoys, the Ben Bordelons, the Jamie Howards. There's just the group of people that you can come in contact with. And then the people that I didn't necessarily work with. Tommy Hodson that I've become friends with. You meet Dalton. You meet these people that when you were growing up, there were, wow, I didn't know I'd ever meet some of these people. And you become friends with them too. And so the greatest part about the office that I sit in is the ability to interact with all these different people throughout history. And people say that this has been kind of the golden era. I mean, from 2000 to now has been kind of unprecedented in LSU history for sure, much less, national history as far as college football goes. I mean, there's only a select teams that have 3 national championships right now, and we're on that list. We've played for 4. There's a lot that we've experienced here that's been great, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and you came from being a grunt to moving up, but I'm not disparaging. I'm complimenting by calling them grunts, but. The hard work that these people do,
absolutely.
Right? I mean, these jerseys have to be washed after every practice, and
the staff here, and I tell these guys all the time. I've told the students, and I've told the full-time staff guys, and all the full-time staff guys that are working football are guys that grew up in this program, so they understand what you do from the day you volunteer here all the way through. And I tell all these guys that without all of them, I mean, I can't do it without any of them. You have to have all those people to take care of this place. You walked through here a second ago, they're loading up for the bowl game. It's a disaster. And it's controlled chaos is what it is. They have 2 trucks sitting out there. Or actually 3 trucks. They're going to start loading those, to be able to leave as soon as Christmas Day gets here. That they're leaving Christmas Day to head to the bowl game. And they need to have everything packed today and tomorrow so that these guys can have 2 or 3 days to go to Christmas vacation. And the video staff and the athletic trainers and the equipment staff work together, and they will for the next 48 hours to make sure that truck, when they close the door on it tomorrow afternoon before they leave for Christmas break's ready to go. And the late nights of travel, the bus trips, those are some of the best times. Road trips were some of my favorite times. Getting on a bus with everybody and just interacting and going 13 hours and everybody being miserable on a bus together, but having fun at the end of it and doing the work. Road trips are some of the greatest times that these guys and girls have. Yeah. And so those are the memories that I have that have been great fun.
Yeah, and it's so condensed, right? You're into a town, you play a game, and you're out. Right? It's not like going on a week vacation somewhere.
No. Well, I mean, honestly, the cool thing about road games, and historically, every coach does things different on the road. So historically, the cool thing about road games has been, you don't have to. You're not hosting anyone. You don't have to entertain. You don't have to make sure your locker room's set up for the visiting team. You don't have to make sure that all the people coming to town that the tickets and all that. It's basically you show up, you go to work, you do your stuff, and you're out. And it's an in and out. It's a lot of fun. Typically in our conference, the opposing teams, equipment staffs, and the opposing team staffs, they treat us great. They really do. And it's pretty typical in our conference. We get along really well with each other on a staff side of things. And so being able to get into places and get things done is always a great part of it too, and a lot of fun. And I have a lot of friends in the conference.
I think I'm just about out of time here, but what does it say about this team in an era in which people are opting out left and right, rosters are decimated, and I think a bit of us were shocked when Brian Kelly says Jaden's the only guy not playing in this bowl game?
I think it's awesome. I think it's a testament to Coach Kelly and what he's trying to build here. He really is. He's, everyone is complaining about NIL and transfer portal and all these things. And you can either complain about it or you can figure out how to make it work for you and be successful. And I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to make LSU successful based on what the standards are. And yeah, they're changing every single day, but I think that his plan and his program and getting guys to buy in to love LSU, if you think about some of the greatest teams we've had, there's a mix of people from outside the state of Louisiana, but really the power is the kids that we have in the state of Louisiana. There's a ton of great football players in the state of Louisiana that love LSU, and we have to continue to build that. We have to build that as a staff. Everybody in this building has to continue to show how LSU is a great place. You know, when you can say, hey, we've won 3 national championships with 3 different coaches, well, that's not, you say that's not building consistency, but is the place the actual consistent thing? Is LSU powerful enough? And that's where we, as a support staff of people that have been here for many years, say, you know, this place is different. You know, everybody worries about the coach being the same, but what about the place? And that's why so many people, you know, you see guys, even in the transfer portal, a lot of the guys that are coming into the transfer portal are guys that are from here, that left because, you know, the grass was greener. But now they're like, well, you know what, I should have probably just stayed home. And I should have enjoyed it and played for my state. And I think that those things are very important. And I think what Coach Kelly's doing is great. I think he and his staff are doing exactly what has to happen to make LSU great.
And when these recruits visit now and they're putting these uniforms on and taking pictures, that is relatively new, right? That's not something that was going on.
It's probably 5 years old.
Yeah.
It's relatively new. It's a different day and age, and either you can change and accept it and build from there, or you can just complain about it all the time. And like I tell our staff, you know, we do whatever it takes to make the team successful, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Awesome. All right. Anything else I should have talked to you about, or anything else you want to mention?
No, not that I can think of.
No.
I think that's it.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers, yeah.